The sun hung high over the university courtyard, casting warm gold across the sea of caps and gowns. Laughter swelled through the air, students embracing, families cheering, photographers calling out directions. Everywhere I looked, pride shimmered like sunlight on glass. Today wasn't supposed to hurt. When my name echoed through the speakers, Alara Hayes, Bachelor of Science in Education, my chest expanded with a rare, almost fragile joy. I walked across the stage slowly, intentionally, letting my fingers brush the diploma as if to confirm it was real. I had earned this. Every late night in the library, every shift at the bookstore, every tear shed quietly in bathroom stalls, it had all led here. But the moment I stepped off the stage, my heart began to pound for an entirely different reason. There they were. My parents. Standing at the edge of the crowd like storm clouds over a parade. My father's face was a mask, jaw clenched, lips pressed tight, eyes narrowed like I had personally inconvenienced him by succeeding. My mother's expression was even sharper, her arms folded so tightly across her chest it looked as if she were hugging her resentment. I forced myself forward. My smile faltered with every step. "Dad." "Mom," I started. But I never finished. My father's hand struck my face so fast the world spun. The slap cracked across the courtyard, slicing through the cheers and music. My cap nearly flew off. My diploma bent under the tightening of my trembling fingers. A hush rippled outward. Conversations died. People stared. Some gasped. One woman reached for her husband, whispering urgently. I didn't look up, I didn't need to. I could feel every pair of eyes burn into me. My father's voice was venom dipped in ice. "You don't deserve that degree." His words hit harder than his hand. He said it loudly, deliberately, so no one could pretend they didn't hear him. "Dad, please," my voice cracked like thin glass. My mother stepped forward, her lips twisting in disdain. "You? A graduate," she scoffed. "You're just a failure in a gown. Nothing more." Heat rose to my cheeks, humiliation, shame, heartbreak all merging into something almost suffocating. My throat tightened. Tears welled, blurring the sea of onlookers. A small child asked his mother, "Why is she crying?" The mother only pulled him away. I wanted the ground to open beneath me. I wanted to become invisible. I wanted to believe this wasn't happening. But my father wasn't finished. "Ungrateful brat," he hissed, jabbing a finger at my diploma. "You think this makes you special? We should have never wasted a cent on you." I swallowed the rising sob. I worked for this. I earned it on my own. "Don't lie," my mother snapped. "You never could have done this without us." Except I had. They just never knew. I stood there, heart splintering, my cheek throbbing, tears streaking silently down my face. The world continued around me, diplomas handed out, families cheering, music swelling, yet I felt frozen, trapped in a moment meant to break me. But beneath the pain, beneath the humiliation, something else stirred. Something sharp. Something strong. Something growing. They had no idea what I would do next. The night after graduation, I lay awake staring at the cracks in my bedroom ceiling, the same cracks I used to trace with my eyes as a child, pretending they were escape routes drawn by some invisible friend. Funny how nothing in this house ever changed, except the person trapped inside it. My cheek still burned from my father's slap. But the wound that hurt the most wasn't on my face. It was the reopening of every old bruise memory had ever left behind. People always assume the worst pain comes from physical blows. But there's something far more enduring about the pain caused by those who are supposed to love you. Their words were never just words, they became truths I carried like stones in my pockets, dragging behind me as I climbed toward a future they didn't want me to reach. When I was 8, I brought home a drawing I was proud of, a bright watercolor of our house with blue windows and a garden that didn't exist. My father didn't praise it. He didn't hang it on the fridge. He didn't even look at me. He snatched it from my hands, glanced at it with disgust, and tossed it straight into the fireplace. "Art is useless," he muttered. I watched the colors curl into ash. That night, I went to bed believing I was useless too. At 12, when I cried because a teacher called my handwriting messy, my mother walked in on me in the bathroom. Instead of comforting me, she grabbed the paper, shoved it against my chest, and whispered, "Stop embarrassing us. You're pathetic." The tears dried, but the words lingered, like cold fingers wrapped around my throat. By 16, I had learned the rules of the Hayes household. Don't cry. Don't hope. Don't expect affection. And above all, don't dream too loudly. When I received an acceptance letter to a competitive summer program, I hid in my room for an hour just to savor the feeling of being wanted somewhere. When I finally showed them, my father only grunted, "Waste of time," while my mother accused me of trying to act better than the family. They crushed every spark of joy before it had the chance to grow. But the thing about sparks is that even under pressure, especially under pressure, they can become something powerful. By the time I reached 18, I knew I had to build a life in secret. My parents couldn't know how hard I was working, how much I was studying, or how fiercely I was fighting to escape the destiny they kept trying to force on me. So I worked nights at the bookstore. Tutored classmates who struggled with algebra. Cleaned offices on weekends when money got tight. And somewhere between exhaustion and determination, an idea was born, one small enough to hide from my parents yet big enough to change everything. A simple online tutoring platform I coded using borrowed library books and free Wi-Fi. At 19, it was just a project. At 20, it became a business. By 22, it was profitable. By 23, on the day of my graduation, it had grown far beyond anything I expected. All without them knowing. All without them helping. All because they taught me something they never meant to. If I wanted love, safety, or success in this world, I had to create it myself. And I did. They just hadn't discovered it yet. But they would. 3 days after graduation, the world outside my parents' house felt brighter, louder, and strangely more alive, almost as if it had been waiting for me to finally claim my place in it. But inside the Hayes household, the air was heavy, thick with the same suffocating tension I had known since childhood. My parents hadn't apologized. They hadn't asked if I was okay. They hadn't even acknowledged the slap. Instead, they paced around the living room complaining about how people might have seen and how I'd made them look bad. Their words floated upstairs to my room like smoke seeping under a door, unwanted, toxic, impossible to ignore. But this time, something was different. This time, their voices didn't bury me. They fueled me. Because while they obsessed over appearances, I was preparing for something far more meaningful, my first public appearance as CEO of Brighter Path. The invitation to the Young Innovators Gala sat on my desk, gold and crisp. I ran my fingers across the embossed lettering, letting the reality settle into my bones. Keynote speaker, Alara Hayes. It felt surreal. This wasn't some student award or small recognition. This event was broadcast online and attended by investors, CEOs, philanthropists, people who had seen my work, valued it, believed in it. People who saw in me what my parents never would. The morning of the gala, I dressed in a sleek black dress and tied my hair into a low, elegant bun. I slipped on heels I had saved up for months to buy. Every movement felt ceremonial, like I was shedding an old skin and stepping into who I was meant to be. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Dad. Again. His calls had been non-stop since graduation, though never with concern, only accusation, annoyance, and entitlement. I picked up the phone out of curiosity, not obligation. The moment I answered, his voice exploded through the speaker. "Where the hell have you been? We need to talk about your disrespect." I stared at myself in the mirror, at the woman I was becoming. Calm. Confident. Untouchable. "Actually," I said softly, "I won't be available today." "What is that supposed to mean?" His tone sharpened. "You think you can ignore us? You're still under our roof." "Not for long." Silence. The kind that means someone has lost control. My mother's voice cut in from the background. Is that her? Put it on speaker. She needs to hear. I didn't let her finish. I'm heading to a gala, I said, lifting my chin. They're honoring me for my company, you know, the one I built while you were busy telling me I'd never amount to anything. That shut them up. You're lying, my mother hissed. You always exaggerate. It's live-streamed, I replied. You're welcome to watch. I heard a sharp inhale. My father's breath caught. Good. This isn't a joke, Alara, he growled. You need to come home right now. No, I said, with a steadiness that surprised even me. I need to go where I'm respected. Then I ended the call. Clean. Final. A severed thread. Backstage at the gala, as the sound crew fitted me with a microphone and a stage manager wished me luck, something inside me settled, a peace so profound it felt like freedom. When the doors opened and the lights flooded the room, I stepped forward with quiet, deliberate confidence. Tonight, I would tell my story. Tonight, they would all hear the truth. And my parents, watching from home, would finally understand the magnitude of what they had thrown away. This wasn't revenge out of cruelty. It was justice born of survival. And I was ready for it. The hall erupted into applause the moment I stepped onto the stage. It felt like a wave, warm, affirming, powerful, nothing like the cold, suffocating silence of my childhood home. The spotlight didn't blind me, it wrapped around me like a long-delayed embrace, as if the universe itself was whispering, "You made it. You're safe now." My heels clicked softly against the polished wooden floor as I approached the podium. Hundreds of faces were turned toward me, investors, teachers, students, innovators, and none of them looked at me the way my parents always had. No contempt. No disappointment. No resentment. Just respect. I adjusted the microphone with steady hands. Backstage, my nerves had been small fluttering birds, but now, standing in the glow of the room, they dissolved like mist. My voice came out strong. Good evening. My name is Alara Hayes, I began. I founded Brighter Path to help students who feel like they don't belong, to show them they matter even when the world tells them they don't. A murmur of agreement spread through the audience. I continued. For a long time I didn't think I mattered either. The room stilled. You could have heard a pin drop. Growing up, I wasn't encouraged to dream. I wasn't told I was capable. My efforts were mocked, my achievements ignored. I learned to work quietly, to build silently, to succeed in secret. I took a slow breath. But sometimes, the lack of support teaches you something powerful. It teaches you how strong you really are. Applause rose again, gentle, supportive, sincere. This time, the tears that formed in my eyes weren't from pain. They were from release. Somewhere across the city, my parents were undoubtedly watching the live stream, sitting in the same living room where they'd once belittled every spark of potential I'd ever shown. I wondered how it felt for them now, whether they were shocked, angry, or scrambling to rewrite the past in their minds. It didn't matter. Not anymore. After the speech, people surrounded me, shaking my hand, praising my work, telling me how my words resonated with them. A professor told me she wanted to use my platform in her classroom. A philanthropist asked about partnering with Brighter Path. There was talk of a magazine feature, a podcast interview, a mentorship program. My universe was expanding in real time. Hours later, after the crowd thinned and the stage lights dimmed, I stepped outside. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of city rain. My phone buzzed again, my father. Then my mother. Then both, over and over. Missed call after missed call. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to answer. I let the phone vibrate until it fell silent. A message finally came through. We're proud of you. Call us. We need to talk. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Not because I was tempted, but because of how familiar the pattern was: hurt, minimize, then pretend nothing happened. They hadn't changed. They just realized I no longer needed them. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. I typed a simple reply. I'm moving out tomorrow. Please respect my decision. I wish you well, but I'm choosing peace. No insults. No anger. Just closure. When I hit send, a weight I had carried my entire life finally slipped off my shoulders. I walked down the city sidewalk, feeling taller than I had hours earlier. Stronger. Freer. The future stretched before me, wide, bright, limitless. I had built a life without their approval. Now, I would live it without their permission. And as the street lights flickered above me, I whispered to myself the truth I had earned. I wasn't a failure in a gown. I was a survivor in one. And now, I'm unstoppable.